Well folks, we're right into autumn now. And so what do we need to do in our garden as we go through the change of seasons? Obviously, as you can see here, I've got my tomato plants and they're basically on their last legs. All of them at once, well there are only 2 plants here, have decided to dry off and all the leaves are dying back. The tips are not even active anymore, so it's really slowed right down. So the sap flow is diminishing, and the plant really, if it tries to put on any further tomatoes, as we've got these green ones here, these will be the last to ripen if we're lucky enough, and that's if I leave them on there, because the sap flow, even though the plants on the stem, you can see here how nice and strong they are, nice and clean, and they look like they're still vibrant, there isn't a lot coming through to the top end of these tomato plants. Have a look at this, for example, there. It's died off on a tip, so if I sit there and try and get this to actually grow, well, it's not going to grow on a tip. If you want to give your tomatoes a second burst of life, and if you're in the right microclimate to do so, well, what you can do, rather than just cleaning them off like this, as I'm doing here, and in fact, folks, for those who really want to know what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut them right down to the ground. That's what I'm going to do. So rather than doing what I'm doing here, as I just explained to you, I'm going to cut these right to the ground, and I'm thinking whether I let these ripen completely or see if I can get it to start again from the beginning, because maybe we get another flush. And I'll tell you why I'm saying that, because have a look down here, look what's going on. We, earlier on, picked a couple of big tomatoes. And I mean I cut them open and I dropped them there. 1 or 2 of them were eaten by the birds, that is, just like this one here, for example. They've knocked into this and given it a real hard time. So basically what I did is cut it open, squashed it a bit and dropped it down here. And you can see what we've got here. These are my little volunteers. They've already germinated. The same plant in this really good soil. To say that the soil's not good, these would not have germinated for these plants to die back. And at the end of the day, have a look. We've got a capsicum here that was growing in the shade. It's actually come good now because it's got more sunlight. And believe it or not, I can't remember planting an eggplant in here, but we've got one here as well that's been leaning over to get to the sunlight when there was a lot of foliage all over it. And to the right side of that, well, have a look at the corn. That's taken off. It's come up here. They're starting to form here beautifully. So they're standing about 5 or 6 foot out of the soil in this raised bed there, folks. So what do we need to do here with the remaining plants that we've got growing above ground like these tomatoes? Well, as I said earlier, we're just going to cut them right to the base, just above the base, in fact, just like that, and like that there, folks. And wait, look at this one here. This one's broken. It's been holding on by a thread, and it's still ripened. You can see the discoloration in the stem. It's really had its time, so that's come off as well. So that's one plant gone. And we're going to harvest all the tomatoes, take them inside, make some sauce, and pickle the green ones. We don't have to ripen them. We're going to pickle the green ones because the fermentation and the pickling is really good for your gut biome during the winter periods. That's what our gut biome needs. Green stuff. With the base of the tomato that you leave behind there, because the plant is still quite vibrant, active, and why I say it's active, because have a look around here. All these little ones germinating everywhere. There's 100, 200 here. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but that's a great way to be able to grow your own variety, folks. Now, normally we'd sow our plants in little seedling trays, and that's great, plugs and so on, which everybody should do and practice as often as possible, in fact. But if you have an opportunity like this where you've got a bed exposed and you can see some great germination happening, that's by having the seeds falling into the ground. There's no reason why you couldn't get some spring onions, sprinkle them around here, maybe a little bit of lettuce, and I'm not talking about 100 seeds, just as small as amount as you can, so that when they do germinate you can easily separate them. And it's ideal to have it happen like that in the ground, because if you don't have to thin them out, which you will normally, but as you do thin out, the ones that remain in the ground, they actually grow undisturbed, which means they grow bigger, better, stronger, without any drawback when you take them out of one punnet into another. But that's not to say seedlings are bad. They're fantastic. They need to have seedlings, or we need to have seedlings, because not everybody can grow straight in the ground. So we have the seedlings for those who need them, and we have the seeds for those who can grow them themselves directly in the ground or in their own seedling trays. So tomatoes like this, well, because there's still activity going on and the soil hasn't completely dried down, it's really at the beginning of autumn. This may kick off, as you can see here it has, but you can see already discoloration in the leaf there. So really whatever comes out of this will be very insignificant. If you're in a nice microclimate, you might get another flush of green tomatoes if anything, or if you build a hothouse over the top of the bed, you may be able to keep growing them on and hopefully ripen some good crop out of an original plant that gave you a beautiful crop the first time. So my plans with this bed here, folks, is to harvest the tomatoes like this, separate some of those tomato seedlings when they put their new leaves on, pot them on, and then sow some more seeds in here of different varieties so that we have our continuous picking happening and harvesting as they grow. Never leave your soil left exposed like that for too long a period, because the sun, even if it's autumn, we're going to get a couple of 33-degree days coming up. Plus, with that hot sun, it will dry out and heat up the soil temperature, which knocks off the microbes. So you want to get a leaf coverage, plain coverage over the top, and mulch if you haven't got that down, especially to keep it protected and keep it cool and warm when it needs to be. So that's the best way to do it. For now, let's grab all these tomatoes. I'm going inside to make some sauce. I might make some bolognese as well, and then I'll pickle the rest of these. You can do the same, folks. So get your garden ready for autumn. What you got to do is harvest what you got there, cut it to the ground. Do not rip out the roots, because they're vital for the count of life that's in the soil. When you pull it out, you're disturbing that all. Leave it in there. If the plant's going to die, it'll wither away. It becomes a food source for your soil, the microbial life. That's what we do, folks. Keep it natural, keep it real, and keep it healthy. Nutrient-dense food is what we're aiming for, and regenerative gardening. Check it out, vasilisgarden.com. From me, Vasili Maresi.